Now, in keeping with more conversations this morning, our main talk is on the Edo Election Tribunal. About a week ago, there were more admittance of evidence as to regards allegations leveled against the Independent Electoral Commission on the exemption of over 78 polling units with election results that produced the incumbent governor, Senator Monday Okpebolo. Now, whilst this issue continues to remain a very controversial one, a lot of legal bigwigs are shying away from the conversation. But we'll do our best to keep you abreast with the developments thus far and the possibilities as to which way this case, which is before the petition tribunal, would go. Before we dig into the conversation this morning, let's give you a highlight of what transpired at the last hearing on the Edo Election Petition Tribunal. We'll be right back to pick up the conversation after that highlight. Stay with us. Don't do. Scott, Mona, come on for you. Do not back you. Go, Ben. He's okay. This man now. No, this man is
Go that side, go my back, leave that one. Finally escape.
You are a youth leader, I'm a youth leader. If I come here with my security, with the influence containers, what's going on? I came here with my fellow workers, you came here with your fellow partners. Then you still brought security, private security. So come and do what? It's okay. Carry your boss.
Continuation of hearing. And today we took the PW12. He was cross-examined. And during cross-examination, he admitted that they have 4,198 polling units in Edo State. But they only challenging 765 units, which is 16.7% of the entire polling units in Edo State. And secondly, he also stated that he was never accredited by INEC to perform any function during the election. So it was okay, and then they were supposed to take another witness today, but they told the court that their witnesses are not readily available. So based on that, the matter was now adjourned for continuation of hearing to 30th day of January 2025. That's the position.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As we told them from day one, they don't have any case. We should forget about this matter. Let's go for 2027, 2028.
But the PDP, in fact, they are saying that considering the presentation today and the cross-examination, they have leadway concerning the.
You are at the court. There's no leadway. As we speak, we have followed up the proceeding. They don't have any case of that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Well, it's been very dramatic. It has been very eventful. It's getting heated. It's as it concerns the Edo Election Petition Tribunal. If you'll recall, on the 21st of September 2024, the governorship election that produced the incumbent governor, Senator Okpebolo, Monday, has also been greeted with this aggrieved submissions by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, as to what they've called injustice on their parts. Now, this morning, we'll be looking to have an expanded conversation, and joining us virtually from Benin City is an APC chieftain who was former SSA to the then Governor Adams Oshomole, former Assistant Director, APC 2024 Governorship Campaign Council, and the Director of Finance, Oredo APC. I'm talking about Mr. Collins Osaghae. Mr. Osaghae, good morning to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Comrade
Comrade, rather. Thank you, Comrade Collins, for joining us. Let's talk about this development. You've heard the news making the rounds, I'm sure. I'm sure you've been on top of the situation as regards what the opposition is saying your party did in the outcome of the 2024 elections. Would you care to tell us if there's any news to go by, or is it part of the usual petitions that follow elections in Nigeria?
You and I agree that with the kind of administration that the former Governor Obaseki Godwin led in Benin, for a very serious minded person, will not even give attention to whatever allegation that should come from PDP. Because their master, the then Idi Amin of Edo State, which was the former governor, who was so dictatorial.
I beg your pardon, Comrade Collins. Let's avoid name calling. Let's just keep it civil. You can make your points without name calling. A lot of people will be offended by likening him to Idi Amin, whatever the case of comparison is. So let's just keep it civil.
Fine. I had wanted to let the world know, because your station is a global one, and probably some people didn't know where the Accra was coming from. But however, just to cut the story short, the truth is that what they were doing was what is actually beating them now. Because they felt the usual hard-headedness during an election, haven't set up their own control room to help them either falsify information, would work out for them. You know, they went all out prior to the election. There were violence everywhere because the governor felt he would use the vigilante to oppress the people. So then they have already done their own election. They have already calculated their own results, and that is what they are propagating. You cannot put nothing on nothing. How can you come up? You wearing an INEC official, for example. You wearing an accredited observer that came up with whatever you are claiming. So you, that is what you feel it should be, or that is what you imagine. So PDP is crying on a mere speculation. It's speculation not from even those major stakeholders, speculation from their own member, and that doesn't make it right. But I can assure you that His Excellency Governor Monday Okpebholo won the election hands down. If we want to even go by a re-authentication, I can bet you PDP would even win one local government. Owing to the crisis that bedeviled PDP before that election, owing to the kind of administration that Governor Obaseki gave to Edo people with his high-handedness, no human faith, and no infrastructure on ground, nothing to prove or to talk about. So completely his administration was 0 over 100. So in such an administration that was 0 over 100 for 8 years, you do not expect the people to also jump into the same ship or into the same stream and want to swim ever again. So I want to tell you what they are speculating. Propaganda are nothing but the
We'll get to that in a bit, but let's talk more about the first sitting of the tribunal in Edo State. We've also shown our viewers some of the clips from that first sitting and how rowdy it became. Now, following the first sitting now, the conversations to move the tribunal from Edo State to Abuja have been had. What do you make about this relocation of the tribunal from Edo to Abuja?
I was on one of your sister TV stations the day before yesterday with one of the PDP chieftains. I was very happy that he himself said it was their making for the tribunal to be relocated. We are even happy that PDP already confessing that all of those violence that started from the beginning of the tribunal, the one you showed just now, was merely the last one before the action before the last sitting, before it was removed or relocated to Abuja. What they have done perpetually was to create tension and uncertainty. You know, all the businesses around Sapler have been on fear base just because tribunal has been sitting. You know, the sitting before the one that is out to go and import private security from Lagos those bodyguards who saw with heavy chest that was rooting people at the tribunal. You saw it just that they were rooting some of the APC chieftain who also had the opportunity of coming to observe the tribunal. You saw them root them and flew them from their shoulder, as if the Nigerian police wasn't enough to create security. But that was quite unfortunate, but also thank God for the response of our people and the security agencies that had to tell those security private personnel, those talks that were imported from Lagos to please excuse, the tribunal venue. But however, you can see the other state before now, where some persons had gone and were shooting gun around the tribunal, even with PDP vest, that we must reclaim our mandate and what have you. The very first sitting too was filled with crisis. There are women and what have you, they mobilized all of them to the court, and they came to court making it rowdy, creating uncertainty just because the governor is a very simplified person, he's a humble person, he doesn't believe in violence, he believes that what the people need is good governance, and that is what he has come to do. But they were trying to take advantage of all of that. But even still, he was calm. But thank God, their own action led to the relocation of the tribunal. But wherever the relocation is, wherever the point of judgment is, we are very convinced that the people's mandate will stand, and whatever the people have said by way of this election that gave a humble senator, Mode Okpebholo, a man who is been known for who he is, that victory will stand by the grace of Almighty God. Because all power comes from God. All power comes from God. They have been there.
All right. Collins.
People from point to point. They said they have all it takes to buy the judiciary. That we don't know.
All right, Comrade Collins, I can understand your enthusiasm, but let's look to have a broader conversation, especially with legal perspective. Whilst you're on the conversation with me, we're also going to be joined via phone call by Barrister Kevin Oteiku Asekome, who is a human rights activist. Barrister, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for joining us. We have an APC chieftain, Comrade Collins, also on this three-way conversation, joining in from Benin City. We've heard his opinion of things. I'd like to get legal perspective. Talk us through some of the decisions we're seeing this morning, because effective Monday 27th, we saw a relocation of the election tribunal from Edo State to the National Judiciary Institute, Airport Road here in Abuja. Walk us through why you think this was necessitated.
The issue is we are all witnesses to what was happening in the tribunal in Benin, where supporters of both parties were generally making a nuisance of themselves in front of the tribunal premises. And you see, the safety of the tribunal members is paramount, because election petitions are time-bound, and any disruption will cause serious problems, because when the judgment is given outside the 180-day time limit, it is null and void. And if anything will happen that will now disrupt the proceedings to the extent that the tribunal will not be able to sit, it should be avoided by any means. So I am not part of the tribunal staff, neither am I a resident with him, but I think the tribunal saw it wise to relocate it to a neutral venue where supporters of both parties will not be able to come and attempt to disrupt proceedings in the tribunal.
I like your opinion on this matter, especially for the fact that you are saying that it is supporter of both parties. Comrade Collins here was outrightly saying that those orchestrating the unrest, especially at the first tribunal sitting, were largely members of the PDP. But in your opinion, it's good to hear balanced reports that it's both parties.
He's a politician. I respect his opinion, but I know as a politician he will want to project his party in a good light. But all of us are witnesses to the skirmishes that were happening in front of the election petition tribunal. It is immaterial who starts the fight or who is a victim in the fight, but it remains a fact that the activities of both parties were disrupting proceedings at the tribunal. So one cannot really say it is the fault of party A or party B, but the thing is that what the tribunal looked at is the safety of its members, because these things can easily boil over, and before you know, the harm has been done, and nobody will be even talking about who started it or who did not start it. but the damage that will be done to the election petition, the tribunal, and its members might not be able to be quantified. So prevention is better than looking for a solution. So I think that is what informed their decision to move out the tribunal to Abuja, away from the reach of both party supporters. If they decide to continue fighting in Benin, that's their problem. But the tribunal proceedings will go on.
Now, talking about some of the allegations leveled against the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, it's on the number of votes that were supposedly exempted during the compilation of results. I don't know if you've gone through those allegations, and I would like to hear what you make of them.
I'm really sorry. I cannot really give an opinion on that because the matter is still is sub judice. And as a lawyer, and based on my respect for the court or the tribunal, I will not delve into whether there were votes that were exempted or there were votes that were added. That is a matter of evidence. And the evidence, I believe, is before the tribunal. It is the tribunal that evaluates the evidence and then arrive at an informed decision. But what I will say is, anybody that has any evidence of any such malfeasance, that is the essence of going to the tribunal in the first place. You are alleging that there were irregularities in the election that, in your opinion, affected the results of the election substantially to warrant maybe declaring that the person that was declared to have won the election was not actually the person that won. Fair enough. If you as that must prove. You are bringing those allegations before a tribunal. You should have evidence to back up your claims. It's not enough for you to come and allege. It's for you to come and prove and prove it on the balance of probabilities because it's a civil proceeding. So, as I said, I cannot start evaluating evidence in this program right now because I'm not the tribunal.
Let's talk about something else, and it's concerning the law enforcement in Edo. It almost feels as though these thugs, whatever the backing they have the will to display weapons and shoot them at will in public spaces without intervention from any security outfit. Does this somewhat worry you?
Please come again. I didn't get you.
The display of weapons by political thugs in Edo and the fact that they can open fire at will in public places. Does this somewhat worry you that there's lack of intervention from our security outfits in Edo?
The security outfit in Edo, well, I will not say they are not doing their job, but it may be they are probably overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem. Because if they were able to contain the problem in the first place, I don't think there will be any need to move out the tribunal from Benin to Abuja. I think the propensity for breakdown of law and order was so much that even the security agents felt overwhelmed, and maybe they didn't want to apply excessive force so as not to be seen to be, violating personal human rights and all that. You understand? And, once there is disruption of peace, you cannot quantify what will happen next. You cannot quantify the reaction of the security agencies if they start to react. And they are there they are supposed to be there as impartial observers that will keep the peace and be civil to all concerned. I'm sorry to say this. In the country, everything you do is always interpreted politically, ethnically, or otherwise. So I think the security agencies are also very careful so as not to be seen to be supporting one party against the other. Maybe their efforts to, keep the peace using the mildest techniques available probably failed. And if they were now to use excessive force, it will now cast a kind of aspersion on the security agency as siding one party against the other. I think that is the problem they had.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kevin, for putting things into perspective. Let me get the thoughts of Comrade Collins, who is still with us on this conversation. Now, Comrade Collins, you've heard Mr. Kevin here. He's talked about the need for the security apparatus in Edo to be non-biased so that they don't seem to be siding one party. You had also given credit to the governor, Monday Okpebholo, for not using his power as the chief security officer in the state to influence whatever is going on. Talk us through this development as regards what we're seeing on screen.
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I will really have to appreciate the two successive commissioner of police, and even before the one that assumed office a few days ago. I wouldn't want to talk more on her, but I think those other ones have indeed lectured their subordinate very well. They've been very, I don't want to use the word extremely civil. Probably too because we had a governor that did not propel them to using force on anyone or to undermining anyone's fundamental human rights. So probably that also made them, because one, we begin to imagine is it this kind of Nigerian police we have now in Okpebholo's government that we had in Obaseki's government? Because one, there were a lot of excess use of power when Obaseki was there as a governor, and we saw how even the police sometimes were very brutal to the citizens, especially the opposition party, the APC. But over the time now, we have seen a new system of policing, and we are happy about that. I think the opposition can even attest to that fact, and that is why you see most of them were misbehaving the way they are misbehaving. Because one, if it was PDP that was in government, everything would never near court. Now I will make a very brief reference. In the last general election of House of Assembly, for example, to allow me, where we had a rerun in the House of Assembly, both from reps position and Houses of Assembly. Even in Ego constituency, for example, where PDP have lost, it was left to just one ward that had about 2,000 votes. In only that ward, in the rerun, they produced over 14,000 votes, even when the registered voters in that ward was less than 2,000 or about 2,000. But they generated 14,000 votes on there, to remove the Labour Party guy, Eric, that won that election, just to say and said nothing would happen, goes to tribunal. So even when tribunal was sitting, even the young man, the candidate, was being beaten and drawn on the floor. A candidate of a party who supposedly won the election because Obaseki was a governor and he used every means, to coerce them away. But thank God that one is not there today. That is why PDP are even saying, they facilitated the moving the case to Abuja. But we congratulate them on that because we do not have fear. Now, I want to again appeal to the police to continue in this decent manner in which they have begun. Because the federal government does not want or believe in violence or oppression. That is why just a few days ago, he has signed the anti-cultism law. Now, restraining, even you assume you are a cultist, you even slap somebody in the name of a cultism, or add one other person and join yourself to oppress another. Okay? It's 21 years imprisonment. If you even dare, your group even dare kill someone, you will even go for it as a way of paying with your life. So that is just to show you that the government does not believe in violence, will not encourage violence, and that is why some of us are very proud of it. But I do appeal to PDP to understand the fact that they have lost, and they have lost again, because they have lost by every standard. So there is nothing they can do about it. Go and warm up, go and work on yourself. Ahead of 2027, we will all meet at the feet again, because the work of the governor, by the grace of God, between now and the next few years, we show that even the people will understand that Okpebholo government, Okpebholo as a person, is the kind of governor they wanted, and that they voted, and that their vote is not a wasted vote. So I just feel the people should also encourage the security to do their work, because overzealousness of some of our members who go extreme are actually the cause of some of these things we are seeing. Otherwise, the court would have been sitting peacefully here without us not spending more money, to moving people to Abuja. Because take it or leave it, some party faithfuls will have to still go to Abuja to go and witness, the sitting or the proceedings.
The proceedings.
Across the party.
Well,
across the parties.
I appreciate that point you made, especially in stating that overzealousness of certain members of parties is what has led to this. But I would like to ask Barrister, from the point you raised on Governor Monday Okpebholo signing the Secret Court Prohibition Bill into law and prescribing 21s in jail for cultists and 10 years for their sponsor. Barrister Kevin, you're with us on this conversation. What do you make about this bill that has been signed into law by Governor Okpebolo prohibiting secret cult activities?
Well, the issue is that the activities of secret cults have been so rampant in Edo State and particularly in Benin City. I can say that because I am from Edo State. And it needed a very, very robust legislation to keep it in check. I have gone through the law, and I'm very satisfied with the measures taken to curb this cultism issue. You see, Benin was gradually becoming like the New York of those days, where gangsters ruled the streets. In Benin's case, cultists were now ruling the streets. You could not move from one street to the other. So we really needed a legislation that would really, put a check on their activities. And from my understanding of this new law, if implemented faithfully, because the implementation also is key to whatever is happening in that state. If it is implemented faithfully, I believe it is going to bring calm back to Edo State, and people might be able to move about freely and sleep with their eyes closed, because so many people have died. Even those who are not even cultists have been caught in the crossfire of these battles between these cult groups, and these are needless deaths that would have been avoided if there was a legislation that was very robust and very, very clear, so that anybody that runs foul of it knows the consequences. So I'm satisfied with the law. I only pray that it will be implemented faithfully without fear of favor by the government.
Now let's talk about it in relation to political thuggery, because people say most of the persons that hired guns or used to disrupt or scuffle the electoral process have traces to being secret cult members or even gang leaders. In terms of the implementation, does it call for a need for a legislation to also speak to political thuggery, or do you think about it from the angle of an amendment of the Electoral Act?
Political thuggery has already been covered by the Electoral Act. But it's just unfortunate that it is not being enforced. The Electoral Act describes a term of imprisonment if anyone caught in political thuggery, ballot box snatching, and all those offenses related to election. If that is why I always happy that if these laws we have in this country are faithfully implemented, I don't think all these issues we are complaining about will still rear their head. You understand? These thugs operate openly, and yet we are yet to hear of a single conviction for political thuggery in our legal system. And it is so bad, because it means that the laws are not, they are not stringent enough. Would I say stringent enough? No. That the laws are not being implemented in a way that will really put a check to all these activities. The people who are entrusted with implementing laws bring in maybe personal considerations into the implementation, and people who are supposed to be caught in the web of the law slip through it through one means or the other, maybe through corrupt practices or favoritism or something. So that is what I am saying. The laws we have in this country are very, very wonderful laws. If you take a look at, you take a copy of the laws of the Federation of Nigeria, you go through it, you will now start to wonder why we have problems in Nigeria. But the problem we are having is implementation. How do we enforce these laws? The enforcement is where the problem is, not the laws themselves. Even this anti-cultism law that has just been passed now, if it is not properly enforced, it will just remain as a piece of paper. So it is the enforceability that determines what the law is.
Now, if you recall in 2023's general election, there were certain persons who went viral, who were caught on camera, making pronouncements that were constituted as undue inducement of voters, also threatening voters not to come out. Many have talked about the lack of evidence, does that not constitute evidence that can be used to prosecute persons when it comes to political thuggery?
There is this maxim that says the law does not give you what you don't ask for. The law gives you what you ask for. If you approach the law will now work for you. Now, those people that were caught on camera, was any of them arrested? The answer is no. All those people that were taking all those threats and making all those inflammatory statements, was any one of them arrested? No. So you cannot expect the law to have effect when the establishment entrusted with enforcing the laws have not taken steps to bring the people before the law.
But Barrister, we have policemen on election observation duty.
That is what we are saying. That is what we are saying. We need to question our security agencies on their conduct during elections. Yes, I understand that they might not want to go overboard in maybe enforcing the peace of. But at the same time, when there are glaring cases like the one you just mentioned, they should move in, arrest these people, bring them before the court for prosecution. Even when 1, 2, 3 people are prosecuted and successfully sent to jail or maybe given a very stringent punishment, I think it will act as a deterrent to anybody who is thinking about doing that. But if there is no deterrent, it will continue with impunity.
Now, the other angle
we need to.
Sorry to cut you. The other angle to it, so you just added to the point you're making before I go back to Comrade Collins. The other angle to it is we're also seeing the EFCC observing elections, and from their angle, they say it's to curb vote buying. A few arrests were made, but in terms of the prosecution and the outcome of the alleged sponsors of the vote buying, that has become another controversial conversation. What would you say in that regard? Barrister Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Talking about the EFCC and its election observation duties to curb vote buying. A few arrests were made, but in terms of prosecution and the alleged sponsors... you can hear me now.
If you ask me, the EFCC has no business being around election venues. The Electoral Act is quite clear. It's very, very expansive. The police also have wide power to enforce the provisions of the Electoral Act. I don't think they need the EFCC to do that for them. Vote buying, voter inducement, thuggery, snatching of ballot papers or ballot boxes, as the case may be, are all offenses under the Electoral Act. And the police has the power to prosecute anybody found to be doing so. What is the EFCC doing there? The EFCC has its own terms of reference as far as its duties are concerned. If you are now coming to arrest people who are doing vote buying, now what is the justification for that? What is the police supposed to do? You see, that is what I am saying. There is this duplicity of functions amongst our security and law enforcement agencies that makes it very, very difficult for each agency to even function. You know, there's a saying that too many cooks spoil the broth, and that's exactly what's happening in our law enforcement scenario today. There are too many law enforcement agencies doing basically the same job, and before you know it, there will be there will be tough battles. That okay, this is my jurisdiction. No, this is not my jurisdiction. And at the end of the day, nothing gets done. The Electoral Act has spelled out this offense, and it is the police that is the primary law enforcement agent in Nigeria. All these other law enforcement agents are offshoots of the police. Their powers are powers that were donated to them by the Nigerian police. So why don't we give the Nigerian police the free hand to deal with all election offenses? You bring the EFCC in. Okay, now the police arrest somebody for vote buying. The EFCC says it's their duty. They arrest the person, nothing gets done. Maybe the police will be able to prosecute the offenders better. But the NCC comes in and says it's our jurisdiction. And before you know, the whole thing is lost in the web of arguments and counter-arguments, accusations and counter-accusations. So it doesn't just overwhelm.
Now, Barrister Kevin, it's becoming a tradition post-elections for us to have petition tribunals. You spoke about the 180 days window earlier. And another technical angle to it is with the request for certified true copies and the time it takes to get and whatnot. If you were to recommend some amendments to our electoral acts in that regard, do you have any to prefer?
Well, if I were asked to propose any amendments, it should be the length of time allowed for filing. The electoral act stipulates that your processes must be before the tribunal 21 days after the election. Now, the problem is most election petition tribunals are constituted maybe 2 weeks after the election. Now, that gives you just 7 days to prepare your processes and front-load every evidence you have. It's very cumbersome. And most times, most of these evidence are not brought in before the time limit expires. So evidence that will have been brought to court is lost because the Electoral Act does not also give room for amendment of processes. Once you have filed, you have filed. The only thing you can amend is maybe typographical errors or misnomers, that is misspelling somebody's name. But you cannot bring in any material evidence after you have filed. So the issue is, how do we believe that a prospective petitioner can gather all this evidence, certify them within 21 days? Let us tell ourselves, it's not, sometimes it borders on the realm of impossibility. So what will we should extend the time within which a petitioner can file it, maybe to 1 month. That will give enough time for you to collect whatever evidence you have and then bring it before the tribunal. And another thing is this procedure for amendment. You see, in the normal civil procedure rules, there are provisions for a party to amend its processes at any time before judgment is reserved. So if during the dependency of the proceedings, you discover that there's a vital evidence that will help your case, you can bring in it by sick leave of the court, bring it in, and it will be accepted as evidence. But in the electoral petition, it's a special proceeding. They call it sui generis. It's special proceedings. It is not something. It does not come under normal civil procedure laws. It has its own rules. So, and the rules say once you have filed, you cannot amend. So, if in the course of the proceedings, a piece of evidence turns up that will have turned the table in your favor, you can no longer bring it. So you see, there are so many cases that will have been won that are lost, not because the petitioner does not have a good case, but because he could not get the relevant evidence before the tribunal before the expiry date. And the tribunal can only work on evidence before it. It cannot manufacture evidence for many years. Neither can anybody smuggle in evidence again after the process has been filed. So if I would say the time for filing and this amendment process should be looked into, because it negates the principle of fair hearing, in my opinion.
Now,
so I know that these steps were taken to prevent frivolous amendments. You know, some parties will be fond of frivolous amendments. Amend today, tomorrow you amend, next tomorrow you amend. But at the same time, it infringes on the.
Barrister Kevin, you still with us? Well, it may seem as though Barrister Kevin's network ended abruptly. We'll look to reconnect with him. But in the meantime, let me come back to Comrade Collins. Comrade Collins.
Would you?
We're listening to Barrister give us a perspective of how, because you and I are not legal practitioners, but we also are part of the persons who stumble on stories, especially with regards to candidates before an election. Much like your boss, the governor, faced a suit before the election pending on age falsification and what have you, result issues. It's one of those common issues that candidates face ahead of elections. What was the party's position when this happened a day before the election? And are this still part of some of the issues that the tribunal are faced with the PDP breathing down the APC's necks in Edo?
Yes, it has become a norm in Nigeria that parties will want to cook everything just to probably distract the other candidate. It's not just similar with my boss only. It's synonymous. Even Houses of Assembly election, you see the opposition bringing up things that are not even there at all. First, they aim at not because they are going to win the case. They aim at distracting the supporters, distracting the person, or making the supporters feel that they probably may not win that case in court. So why should they just still remain with that person? Before it becomes too late, let them quickly see their shots or see their loyalty elsewhere. You know, all on the desperation of no permanent loyalty. You know, we have some supporters like that who probably are working for you, but every little thing trigger their faith, trigger their belief, trigger their mind, trigger their positions. And based on that, you know, they can take a 360 reverse, you know, and so on. So most times political parties or candidates of parties have taken this as a way of method, you know, to distract others. But I think it's not something that is supposed to be. But because we don't have a refined institution in this country, we don't have systems that are really working. These systems are working. For INEC to even admit, you know, your certificate, INEC is expected to have done their own findings. By some sections of law, we empower INEC to verify and go through documents being submitted by candidates. In another phase, the court will also tell INEC that you do not have right to disqualify a candidate on the basis of credentials. It is only the court that can do that. So there has been this misconception and misfunctionality in the Nigerian system as it were. But we are hoping that very soon things will begin to change. But the problem is that how soon will we just get it right? Because we just feel that institutions should run without minding who is heading it. Even if the person is on suspension or is not there, it should be running optimally. When person signs a signature, like what we have in recent times, you know, if you go to some foreign embassies, you know, I was privileged to visit one embassy, you know, because someone who was on leave was signing a document he's not supposed, or she's not supposed to sign, then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they go to embassies not to accept any document coming, you know, from Nigerian populace as at within a certain period. And the common Nigerian person who's going to either the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Abuja to submit that document does not know who was signing and who was not signing. And you can imagine the misfortune, the money those people would have spent. Those who were supposed to travel since December, their documents they were reversed back to go and start all over, not minding the money, not minding the time, not minding what they were going for outside the country. For example, there are kids who were supposed to go and resume school in their school places. They couldn't go because institutions are not running. If someone was on leave and was signing in the house, probably a director was taking the document to the person to be signing in the house, the person was supposed to be the one to be visiting. Not those applicants, for example. I'm just trying to make it as a way of references. Now, at the end of the day, people were crying. Some people will never have money again to repeat those journeys they did before. And you can also imagine how embassies, foreign embassies in Nigeria usually treat Nigeria. So that on its own, because we don't have a working institution. That is things we should be looking at.
Thank you, Comrade Collins. Hold on, let's get legal perspective.
Because they are trying to mark them are another problem. You don't expect the president to be at every point.
Just hold on a bit. Let's get legal perspective. Barrister Kevin, are you back with us? Yeah, Barrister, Mr. Collins and I were just talking about some issues, especially with opposition parties talking about candidates conflicting date of birth or alleged falsification of certificates, particularly WAEC results. In the case of Senator Monday Okpebolo, a day before his election, he had a similarity where he was summoned by magistrate courts over conflicting dates of birth. When it comes to tribunal cases, we often hear the terminologies of pre-election issues, post-election issues, and how they are admitted in court. Could you just help us understand the concept of this?
The election issues are divided into two: pre-election matters and then post-election matters. The pre-election matters are borders on the qualification of the candidate to even aspire to the office. You understand? So, if a candidate, there is evidence that a candidate is not qualified, as specified by the Constitution, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is a co-aspirant in his party who contested the primaries with him that has the right to bring such matters to the Federal High Court, so that the Federal High Court will look at it, and when he finds that he has not been he's not been properly documented or he was not qualified in the first place, they can now disqualify him. And if he is disqualified, even if he has won the election and he has before he is sworn in, he can be disqualified, and the party that comes second in the election that has a qualified candidate can now assume the position. That was what happened in Bayelsa State, where Diri became governor even though he lost the election, because the deputy governorship candidate of the APC was found to have deposed to so many affidavits with so many change of names. So that one is a pre-election matter. And it is only aspirants who contested the primary with that candidate that can bring such action against the candidate. Now, once an election has been held, those pre-election matters cannot be brought to the tribunal to be heard, because the time frame for those issues had already passed, and an election has been held and a winner has been declared. So now that he has been declared, you cannot come in and now start talking about his qualification right now. The one you mentioned against Monday Okpebolo, Governor Okpebolo now, was taken to the wrong court. And it was also taken there by the wrong parties. You cannot go before a magistrate court to go to say that somebody falsified his age. What are you trying to prove? A governor-elect? The magistrate court does not have jurisdiction over such issues. It is only the Federal High Court that has jurisdiction over election matters. And that jurisdiction begins and ends with pre-election matters. So you cannot go to a magistrate court to get an order to maybe stop somebody from becoming governor. It's not done. To say the least, it's unwise. I don't want to use strong words here.
Well, thank you, Barrister Kevin, for putting the record straight. We appreciate you for joining the conversation this morning and giving legal perspectives.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you. I wish you the best of the rest of today.
Thank you.
Well, back to you, Comrade Collins. My hope is that we'll be seeing Abuja soon. Are you coming to follow the proceedings at the National Judicial Institute?
Not really. If my party asks me to come, I will. I am not a Vasilius party member. I work with instruction.
No problem.
I am
no problem
to be there.
We appreciate the fact that you're not overzealous. So you're not one of those fermenting trouble. You're not one of those fermenting trouble.
No.
All the best. We thank you for joining the conversation this morning. Have a nice day.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be with you.